It stinks.
Hi, so I'm going to go a bit off the cuff here and not necessarily edit things, and I'm just going to express a few personal views on a subject to do with film that has been on my mind for a while. This is separate from my weekly recommendation of films, but hopefully I'll be doing this every time I feel like there's something that needs to be said. I might even come back to this at some point. And what I want to talk about today is the art of film criticism. And yes, I do think that film criticism in and of itself is an art. So what I'm going to go over is that each and every film is a personal experience to the viewer, and that a critic of films is just another viewer that might be more educated than you. And what I'm going to talk about last of all, before the end of the video, is the idea of rating films numerically and why I won't use any strong words. I'm not going to say that it's the death of film criticism. That's a bit too much because film criticism is still out there and I still feel very positive about films and what's being written about them. Yeah, but I think rating films numerically, there's very little to be gained from doing it. So that I'm going to talk about those things today. So to start with, a fairly obvious point, but I'm going to make it anyway, and that's that every piece of art, not just films, I will stick to films, but when two people look at the same film, watch the same film, same TV series, read the same book, they can have two completely different experiences. And there's no telling what those experiences could be. No matter how well I know someone, I can't say for sure how they're going to react to a certain movie. What's going to be on their mind when they watch it, what other associations they're going to have, that's going to be up to them. And well, not necessarily up to them completely, and no one can tell them they're wrong for how they perceive a movie. So that's a first rule of film criticism, that's a first rule of watching films and discussing films, and that's that experiences may or can and do vary. They're all subjective, and no one can tell you if they're right or wrong. So that'll lead me on to the idea of criticism. And a critic is another viewer of films, just like anyone else. Yes, they are most certainly more educated than most regular film goers, but they still they're still just another viewer. Their experiences are still different from everyone else's, and they still bring their own individual. Well, I'll use the word baggage into the cinema when they critique films. So an example of a critic that does this is Robin Wood, who, if you haven't heard of, I implore you to check out his stuff. I've stolen the title of one of his books for this little series here. That's Personal Views, and he's a critic who actually, I believe, came out at a later stage in life, and that affected the way that he looked at films, and he went into detail on that. And so this is another important part of being a critic, and that's letting your audience know where you are coming from when you see these movies, how and why the movie made you feel this way, what associations you have with the material you're being shown. It is not the critic's job to tell you whether you should go and see a movie or not. You can make your mind up yourself there. I mean, I see the next romantic comedy coming out, the next Bruce Willis action movie. I mean, I used to love those when I was younger, and I could not sit through it for the life of me. At all. At all. I would get nothing out of it, but the next person might be really entertained by them. Um, so individual experiences may vary, and that's perfectly fine. Uh, I think I'll give an example. I may as well talk about film while I'm here before I go on to the main point, talking about rating films numerically. Say Woody Allen as a director. He's a very celebrated director, other times not so celebrated, but we won't get into that. I wrote my year-long thesis on his films, on three of his films, but in researching it, I saw all of his other films. I saw the films that inspired him to make those films. I have read thousands of pages on the man, and I'm sick of it. Um, his films do tend to repeat themselves, and so when the next one comes out, and he'll be making films for a lot longer, I don't think he will ever die like Clint Eastwood. Even if the next film is that sequel to Annie Hall we've all been waiting for, and it delivers on all those promises, it's still probably going to bore me more than the next person who might be a bit more open-minded to him, because I've seen it. I've seen it all before, and if I should write about the film, if I should talk about the film, I will make that clear. Why it bored me, why it didn't do anything for me, and yeah, that will be my personal experience being relayed on. I will not represent that personal experience numerically, because how can I? How can I represent the opinion of, well, the film was boring to me because I feel like I've seen the same jokes, the same plot points, and the same characters over and over again because I studied it um, last year extensively, too extensively. How can I represent that numerically? What number is that out of 10? So that will bring me on to my next last point, and the point that I think most people watching this, if anyone ever sees this, will relate most strongly to, and that is the idea of rating films numerically and why I think it just shouldn't be a practice at all. Why I think it doesn't add anything to film criticism or the ongoing discussion of film. Now, as I said, I'm not here to say anything extreme like this is the death of film criticism, because lots of great critics, much more well-viewed people than myself, use this system. I don't know if by choice or not. I'm not the only person that disagrees with it. And they still write fantastic criticism. They still speak very well about films, and they still contribute to the ongoing discussion. So it's not the death of film criticism. It's just something that I don't think adds to it. Um, so, and that's what I just said, is that complex opinions can't be represented numerically. And I feel like, well, they really do dominate the reviews for a lot of people, the critiques. This was a 4-star movie, I better go see it. This was a 2-star movie, maybe I won't. And that can be said. You can look at a critique of a film, see the number it was given, and then make a decision based off that without even reading what this person had to say about the film. That's nonsense. That's no good. So, to give an example of that I think will well illustrate why I think the star system fails, the rating system fails. Lars von Trier's last film, Nymphomaniac. I saw it last year. I sat through all 4 hours of it. I don't know how many people can say that, maybe a few. And I still don't know what to think of this film. Some people love it, some people hate it. He is a very polarizing director. And Nymphomaniac was a very polarizing film. There's no two ways about it. Oodles of sex was thrown on the screen. Very rarely titillating, I didn't think, but sex was thrown on the screen. I couldn't tell you what the overall point to this character's arc was. It didn't seem to subscribe to any traditional notions of narrative that I can tell you about, and it used a lot of showy visuals that I'm not sure what the purpose of them was, if there even was a purpose. So I'm really on the fence about this film. So numerically, I suppose you'd say I'd give that 2.5 stars. But I might give the next Bruce Willis action film 2.5 stars as well, because I think it's fucking boring but does what it's supposed to do. And so two films have the exact same rating, but for a completely different reason. And if all you see is that rating, and if that rating dominates the perception of the critique of the film, then it's done no good. It has negatively impacted the discussion of film. And after the opinion is given, after a long, well thought out piece has been given about a film, what good is the rating if you've been paying attention? Why do you need to know that I would give that film 2.5 stars after you've heard what I had to say about it? I mean, I couldn't. The only thing I could say about the Nymphomaniac example is maybe see it for yourself and make up your own mind. Did you like Lars von Trier's other films? It's really up to you whether you see it or not. I'm not here to tell you if you should see it or not. Some critics might say whether you should see a film or not, make recommendations. That's what I'm doing, but it's not the job of film criticism. And so I guess that's the point I wanted to make. The job of film criticism is to contribute to an ongoing discussion of film, to have a dialogue with the audience, with the reader, and not to give a yay or nay from up on high. That's about it. So please like and subscribe. And before I go, anyone watching this, I would really like to hear what anyone else thinks, especially if you disagree with me. If you think the star system does help at all. One opinion, I mean, not to invalidate anyone's opinion whatsoever, I don't want to hear if anyone has to tell me that, oh well, it's good for people that just want to come in, see if it's worth seeing and leave, because as I said, I mean, that's a valid opinion if you have it, but I think that that's not what film criticism is about. It is about engaging with the film. So if you can't delegate 5 minutes to reading about it, then you're not. I don't think you're part of the discussion really. But if there is another reason that you're for the star systems, if the rating system, if there's something I haven't thought of, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear anyone's views on what I've been saying, where you think I'm right, wrong, what have you. So please like and subscribe. Each week I will be recommending a new film if this series continues, and I might also share some other personal views at a later stage. So till then, see you.